afternoon. You're listening to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. KMET 1490 AM, ABC Radio Live. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice located in Encino, California. And I'm here this afternoon along with my business partner, colleague, and best friend, Dr. Robert Jaffe, who's also a psychotherapist and a certified hypnotherapist. And he's going to be talking to us about addictions, trauma, codependency, and all impacting relationships, which is that's what life is all about, right, Dr. Jaffe? And at a previous program, I said that we are born into this world as our loving, authentic, true self, which is open, calm, curious, emotionally available, connected, honest, confident, compassionate, sexual, and trusting. These are your lines, which I really love, and but for some reason, they're not being said anymore.
No, they're being said. In fact, they were said today earlier.
Yeah, and I said them.
You said them, and then you just said them again. So they are being said.
They are being said. Okay.
And as you say, it doesn't matter which one of us does it.
No, it doesn't matter. No. The reason I think I missed saying those words because those are the qualities that we have, and we don't pay attention to them.
Correct.
So as part of our introduction, I'd like to welcome you all to this program, and we thank you for sharing your hour with us. We want to hear from you, so please give us a call, 951-922-3533. I'm sorry, 922-3532, area code 951. And if you feel shy or don't feel comfortable to share on online in a live program, we completely understand that. And so you're more than welcome to join us privately. Use our private contact information. We are on Facebook, and so please contact us via our email and our private phone number, which you can find those information at KMET website.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction.
My pleasure. We are here because we have a purpose.
We have a purpose. The purpose is to help others to discover, uncover, and live their loving, authentic, true selves.
And have a joyful life.
And have a joyful life, yes. Exactly. And so what else is there other than our authentic, true self? And that takes us to our addictions and our compulsions. And we've talked a lot, and we're going to continue to talk a lot about the largest addiction, which goes unrecognized, pretty much unrecognized throughout the world, including the United States. People don't really get that they are suffering with it. They do get that they are in painful relationships.
Right.
And they often get treatment for the painful relationships, but very seldom do they call up and say, I'm in a codependent relationship, and I need to understand what to do in order to make it more healthy.
They know one thing to do very well, and that's to blame the other one.
Well, that's true.
I'm good enough, I'm perfect, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's all the other person's fault.
Correct. And that actually takes us to the origin of codependency. A lot of the things that I talk about in codependency, you can actually find in this wonderful book that was printed, I think, in the 80s, called Codependence: Healing the Human Condition, by Charles Whitfield. He also wrote another great book called Healing the Child Within. And in this book, he talks a lot about the origin of codependence, how it began, it being a progressive disease, and also what we need to do in order to heal ourselves so that we can have healthier self-esteem and, of course, healthier relationships. So what is codependence? Codependence is, we were going to call it a disease of lost selfhood. You lose connection with your loving, authentic, true self which Dr. Rashidian was good enough to talk about some of the qualities of our loving, authentic, true self. Let's see, what are those qualities again? You said that they are, we're open to what? Open to new ideas, open to the way that that other people are, open to learning about ourselves. We come in, we have the ability to be calm. We don't have to be anxious about anything. We come in that way. We also come in with natural curiosity. So that's part of our loving, authentic, true self, is to be curious about the world. Gee, I was in this little cocoon called the womb, and everything was taken care of. I didn't have to think about anything. All I had to do was experience being warm and comfortable. And then all of a
And
sudden,
complain that I didn't have enough room to stretch, so I kicked my mom's
well, yeah,
belly.
occasionally, but then I would stretch out. My mother would go, ooh, ooh, but that was fine. You know, I just loved it being there. And then finally, when I came out into the world, it was like a whole plethora of experiences, many new experiences. The first of which is that I took my first breath because I didn't even have to breathe in the womb. All of that was supplied by the umbilical cord in the mother's womb, and I was connected to the mother's bloodstream and everything, and it was great. But then I come into the world and I learn that I have all these new experiences, starting with breathing. And I come in and I have all of these wonderful qualities. I'm open. I can be calm if things around me are calm. I'm curious what's going on here. I'm also emotionally available, which means that I don't have to protect myself against other people's feelings, that I can absorb their feelings, I can feel their feelings, and I can feel my own feelings. And so I'm available to give and receive emotionally to other people. I'm connected with other people, starting with my mom and then going into other people, my father, brothers and sisters, other people around me. I recognize that there's different shapes to their faces, different sounds to their voices, and this is all very interesting to me. Also, I don't really know how to lie when I come into the world, right? Interesting, right? Because it's something that I just automatically comment on what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm observing. And when I learn how to talk, I learned that that's what I can do. I comment on what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm observing. And if my parents give me permission to do that, then I become honest, and I also become confident. I'm confident that I can comment on what I think, feel, and see, and want, and my wants start to occur, and I begin to want things, and that's really cool because the more I want, the more I can get what I want, and so my life becomes more and more interesting. Um, and then also because I am emotionally aware, I'm compassionate to others. When I see somebody in pain, I start to feel sad about it. I can start to feel very sad about it if I'm very compassionate. And then the other quality that I come in, which isn't really a quality, it's just a state of being, is what you and I talk about in our first hour, which is I am sexual. Mm-hmm. I come in and I have sexuality. I'm sexually aware. I have sexual feelings, and these sexual feelings is something that I'm not really clear about exactly where they originate, but I know that I have them. And if I start touching my genitals, I start feeling something. It feels pretty nice. It feels pretty good. And so I discover that I'm a sexual being. And then if the people around me give me permission to explore, then I explore my sexuality. And that's really cool. And also I come in trusting because here I'm in the world now. World respond to me in a loving way, and I'm hoping that they do. And if they do, I feel really great. And if they don't, then I start to have some issues, right? So if people around me aren't very loving, it affects me. And if people around me are more unkind, that affects me. So this is how we all come into the world, and this is what we experience in the world. And then if we have parents who are loving, and especially parents who are kind, and especially parents who are empathic. They can understand what we're feeling, and then they can communicate their understanding to us. So if I'm crying, there's got to be a reason why I'm crying, right? I'm crying because I'm unhappy. Well, what am I unhappy about? And so a loving parent asks that question. Uh, and the main question that a loving parent asks is, who have we here? That's the bottom line question. Who have we here? And the parent, in asking that question, stays open to the answer, the answers. I'm going to say it's plural because, oh, here we have a female. Oh, a female. Cool, cool. I wonder what her talents are. I wonder what her abilities are. I wonder what her sensibilities are. I wonder what she's going to find of interest in the world.
That's a healthy parent.
That's a healthy parent.
Right.
Right. And so who have we here is the big question. Now, if you have a parent who isn't so healthy, the parent may not ask that question. The parent may instead say, oh, we have a girl, and girls are good at homemaking, and girls are good at sewing.
I'm going to teach her everything I know.
And I'm going to teach her everything I know to make her a good girl who grows up to be a good woman. Now, this is in a less healthy relationship, less healthy parent, excuse me. But the parent is still trying to do the best, right? They're not like saying, I don't really care about this person. I'm going to try to make her into what I think is going to be a healthy woman. But it's based on what I think.
Exactly. So with that, our commercial break is coming up.
It is.
So this is a very important, point to focus on and continue.
Good.
So that we can understand how we take all those wonderful qualities and, and tarnish them.
So we invite you to stay with us, and we will be back in just a couple of minutes, and hopefully we'll hear from you. See you soon.
Welcome back to the commercial break. Dr. Robert here as host of our program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. For those of you who are just joining us, we are talking about codependency, addictions, trauma impacting relationships with myself and with Dr. Robert Jaffe. And we would like for you to please call us. We want to hear your story. Your story is so essential to the whole world because we would like to know how did you make it through, and this is how we learn from each other, and this is how we help each other. So please call us at 951-922-3532, and if you wish to contact us privately, please find our information at KMET website, and they have our email and our phone number. And please introduce this program to those that you believe they may benefit from it. Dr. Robert Jaffe, we were talking about, being wise.
We're talking about wisdom. And so where we left off was we come into the world with these wonderful qualities. And depending upon the parents that we are born to, we learn whether it's okay to be our authentic true selves. The qualities that we came into the world with are our authentic true self qualities. Everybody has different ones in different proportions, but we all come in pretty much with the same ones, which we talked about before the break. And then we said, okay, so the best question that a parent can ask when we come into the world, when we're born, is who have we here? Who have we here means that I, as a parent, am open to discovering who this person is. that I don't have a preconceived idea of who this person is or should be or needs to be. That is the healthiest position that the child can come into the world with a parent like that. Um, I also said that most people come into a family with some dysfunction. And when I say some, I'm talking about not just a little bit, but I'd say like we're talking probably 10% come in with a really healthy family, from 10 to probably 70% come in on a scale of less healthy of healthy to less healthy. And then right about 70 to 80%, when we get from the last 20, 25%, we come into very unhealthy families. So it's still a pretty big proportion. And
You
yeah,
were giving an example about the approach at at the onset of birth from parents to the child, that whether they're able to look at the child and understand, his or her qualities, or whether they're going to decide what to teach the child in a healthy. So that's the healthiest, and then healthy. And then what about a dysfunctional family, an unhealthy family? How would they approach their newborn?
right. So again, the next step down, let's say, the best step is who have we here, and let's discover who this person is, discover their likes and dislikes, discover the qualities that they have, discover their strengths and weaknesses, and help them develop their strengths. And if they want to develop their weaknesses, allow them to do that as well. That's the healthiest. Now, the next healthiest is are parents who do love their children, but also have preconceived ideas of who their child should be. Mm-hmm. And these preconceived ideas are usually based on their own life experiences and their own upbringing. So I was using the example before the break of if the child is a female, then perhaps she needs to learn how to be a worthwhile female in society, and she needs to learn how to sew, and she needs to learn how to cook, and she needs to learn how to take care of the family,
how to be modest,
and especially how to be modest. Oh, I thought I turned this off. Anyway, and how to be modest, and all sorts of other things that I have learned as the mother, right? That um, that I think are going to make her into a good female, a good female. And so then the parent parents the child with an agenda. The agenda is based on what they think is going to be good for the child, right? So that's the next step down. Now, the bottom rung I'm making this oversimplified, but the bottom rung of the triad, of course, there's all sorts of places in between, but the bottom rung of the triad is the parent who is so damaged themselves that they need the child to validate them. And that happens, again, it's very common. And so the parent who's damaged themselves is looking for the child's validation, and tries to create in that child a sense of duty and obligation to take care of the parent. And so the parent's needs become the central focus of the child. We call that kind of child parentified. A parentified child is one who has learned that my needs come second, or not at all. And what's really important is for me to take care of other people. And the people I need to take care of, obviously, are my parents. And so I'm considered good when I take care of them, and I'm considered not so good when I don't take care of them. So those are basically the three big areas, and of course there's gradations in between those. But the people at the bottom rung, let's say, who are most parentified, are the people who struggle the most in intimate relationships, because what they learn throughout their lives is not to pay attention to their own thoughts and feelings as being valid. So when they have a feeling towards somebody, They question whether that feeling means anything. They often discount those feelings. And as a result, because feelings are basically our compass of which way to go in our life, and since we don't understand or validate our own feelings, we don't know which way to go. So we're often in a position where we choose wrong partners for ourselves because our partners are maybe people that society or our parents think are okay for us. And then we end up in relationships where we believe it's most important to take care of our partners, and our partners who are often a product of parental wounding themselves usually pick us without recognizing who their authentic true selves are. So we are in this dysfunctional family couple, and then we raise a child in that family or more children in that family, and we demonstrate our lack of ability to trust ourselves to that child. We may love that child and we may do a lot for that child. It doesn't mean that we're bad parents, but it means that we can't give our child the belief in themselves that we don't have.
Exactly. We can only teach something that we know of and we have experience and we have practice.
Exactly.
So so that's exactly what we transfer to our children.
Exactly.
Right.
And usually this is done at a subconscious level.
Usually it is at the subconscious. So you're right. And then this is how we pick, a partner that's similar to us, right? And it's sort of like we become kind of comfortable with an uncomfortable familiar place.
It's familiar, and since we don't trust our own ability to choose, we allow ourselves to stay in something that isn't right for us.
Right.
And we may stay in it for a day, we may stay in it for a month, we may stay in it for 50 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, the more we stay in it, the more comfortable we become with the, uncomfortableness of the situation. But since it's familiar and we have learned how to survive in an uncomfortable setting, right?
Right.
We don't feel the uncomfortableness of it.
Right. So in the book that we're thinking about writing, which is our working title is The Subconscious Runs the Show. And so we're going to be talking a lot about the issue of what the subconscious is and how in fact the subconscious does run the show. But one of the things that I want to share right now is an experience that I had with my parents, which was that, and I may have shared this with you, but I don't think I've shared it publicly, that my father used to talk to me through gritted teeth when he got angry with me. I think I've shared that with you.
I remember that. Yes.
And so when I was a kid, when my father disapproved of something that I was saying or some behavior, he would talk to me and he would go, "God damn it, don't you know any better? What the hell's the matter with you?" And that's the way he would talk to me. Now, he didn't hit me, but he talked to me and he had that look on his face. And as a young child, I thought, "Ooh, I really screwed up," And so I took that as an indication of my own inadequacy, that I had screwed up, that I hadn't thought it through correctly, that I made a big mistake, and I should feel bad about myself. And so I did feel bad about myself for a long time. And he did this throughout my life up until in my 30s. I was in my mid 30s, and I was actually in my own therapy at that time. And while I was in therapy, I happened to mention to my therapist that that's something that my dad did. And I said, because we were talking about, my self-esteem and how that was formed. And I said, yeah, my dad did this, and it really bothered me. And actually, he still does this. And so my therapist looked at me, and my therapist said, well, have you ever told him that he does this? And I thought about it for a moment, and I said, "Why would I tell him?" I said, "He knows what he's doing." I said, and he knows, and he know, and this is just the way he feels about it. He feels very kind of disgusted with what I'm saying or what. And he said, "Well, you're making an assumption that he knows, number one, what he's doing, and you're making an assumption that he also knows how it's affecting you." And I said, "I don't think I'm making an assumption." I said, "I think it's just the way it is." And he said, "Well, maybe and maybe not. What would it be like if you told him?" And I said, I don't know. So as it turned out, that very day, I went home and I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I don't remember exactly what it was that we were talking about, but he did it to me on the phone. I could hear him talking. God damn! He wouldn't say exactly the same words, but basically, you can feel it and you can hear it. Yeah, yeah. And because I had just talked about it in my therapy, when he was done, I said, "Dad," I said, when you grit your teeth and you talk to me through gritted teeth, I said, it really makes me feel horrible. I said, it makes me feel like I'm less than. I said, I feel like ashamed of myself. I said, and it's always bothered me, and I've never said anything to you, but I'm letting you know it doesn't really feel good. And when I said that, I waited for his response. And my dad was usually very quick to respond. So I said it, and then I waited a couple of seconds, and he didn't respond. I waited a few more seconds, and then after about 10 seconds, I said, "Dad," I said, "did you hear me?" And he didn't respond. And I thought, wow, that's really weird. I waited about another 10 seconds, and I go, "Dad, did you hear me?" Still no response.
Wow.
And now I'm thinking, oh my God, I wonder if I gave him a heart attack by telling him this. And then I would really feel badly that, I listened to my therapist and I said this and now I gave him a heart attack. And so finally, after like about 30 seconds, it seemed like minutes, but it must have been maybe 30 or 40 seconds. I said, Dad, are you there? Are you there? And then finally he said, yeah, I'm here. And then he said something and it blew my mind. And what he said to me was, "Do I really do that to you?"
Mm-hmm.
And it blew my mind when he said it. And I thought, I can't believe he's saying that. I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You just did it." And then he said, yeah, I did. I did. He said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." He said, "My older brother used to do that to me, and I hated it. I cannot believe that I've done that to you."
What a wonderful father for taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And acknowledge what he did.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for in therapy.
Yeah. And so his saying that and my saying that to him was like a splash of cold water for him. It was like somebody splashed him with cold water and it woke him up. And this isn't the way therapy usually works, but my dad was a pretty strong-minded guy. And from that moment on, he never did it again. He never did it again. And there were other things that happened where I was able to talk to him and he was able to recognize it. But what you said is accurate. What if we don't get that from our parents? What if we call them on something and they say, "Oh, it's no big deal. You're just making too much of it."
Right.
Or the phrase I hate, one of the most overworked phrases that I've heard is "you're too sensitive."
It's just dismissing feelings.
Yes.
Dismissing, the emotion, dismissing the experience.
Right. And so if we have parents who do that, then we have parents who are on the third rung down, which are parents who are more interested in maintaining their own position of authority and their own rightness than in caring about our own feelings.
Well, that's one of it. And I think another part of it, when parents dismiss, children's feelings and emotions and the experience, is because maybe they don't have skills to take care of that.
Yes.
Maybe they
Yeah.
don't know what to say. Maybe they don't know how to deal with it.
Yes.
Because maybe, they themselves have been in that position as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Right? Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
our commercial break,
And
right?
then we
So
will
we
come back.
Let's talk about this part, right?
We're gonna talk more about the genesis of codependence, and also I want to talk a little bit about the healing.
Okay.
So we'll talk to you in a few moments. Methods to help you overcome stress and achieve inner peace on Heart to Heart.
Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart to Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. We are talking about addictions, trauma, codependency, impacting relationships, and we were talking about the genesis of codependence.
We were talking about the genesis of codependence. We talked about the broad spectrum of parenting. One parent at the top of the rung saying, "Who have we here?" Trying to discover what that new person in the world enjoys, what they like, what they're interested in, what they're good at, and help them become their best self. The second one is still caring and loving the child, but still wanting the child to conform more to their image of what they think the child should be. And then the bottom rung, where the parent is so damaged that the parent wants the child to really take care of them emotionally, sometimes physically as well. If they're alcoholics, I've had clients where the parent would pass out and the child would have to fend for themselves at 4, 5, 6 years old.
Yes, and by the way, I want to thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your personal story with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
That this is very, important lesson learned, that how when a healthy parent takes responsibility for their actions. So you see, you walked away from that experience feeling how about yourself? Feeling pretty good, feeling that you were heard, feeling that you were valued by your father.
Right. And that was a dynamic that my father my father had with me, because he set it up so that I felt safe enough to take that risk.
Right.
But if the parent is falling in that third square, where you're supposed to meet the parent's needs, then you don't feel safe enough to confront the parent.
Exactly.
And it doesn't occur to you to confront the parent because you're so busy trying to please the parent. And often people in that third place down spend their whole lives trying to please their parent, even after the parent is dead and long gone. They're trying to please the parent by being like the parent. They're trying to please the parent by substituting somebody else in their life for that parent that they're trying to take care of or please, and they don't have the energy or the emotional wherewithal to understand what their own needs are and to move toward taking care of themselves.
Exactly.
So wounded and inadequate parents are I'm not going to say ubiquitous. It's not every parent is that way, but most parents have some wounding. And the better parent is able to allow the child to separate and individuate enough to say to the parent, "Hey, you hurt me this way." And the parent who wants the best for the child wants the child to be able to say their truth, and the parent will then be able to say, "Oh, I didn't realize that," or, "Oh, I did that, and yes, you're right, I was angry and I shouldn't have done that." But if the parent is so wounded themselves, they will flip it around and make the child wrong for saying it. And so the child then carries a great deal of fear about having negative feelings toward the parent. This is a big part of what addictions and codependence are, because what makes us feel good about ourselves, there's a number of things, but one of the main things that makes us feel good about ourselves is the fact that we have the ability to love.
Mm-hmm.
We want to love. Love is our essence. Love is our inner nature. We and if you think about it, love is probably the single most important topic throughout human history. It's been written about in plays. It's been in orchestral orchestras play make music about love. Movies are made. People talk about it. Books are written. Poetry is written. It's all about love. Why? It's because love is the feeling that everything is okay. Love is a feeling that I'm worth being in the world for. And when we get love from other people, starting with our parents, that makes us feel like we are worthwhile people.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can make decisions based on the fact that we feel good about ourselves and that we matter. And if we don't get love from our parents, we feel the opposite. We feel as though we don't matter, and we don't make decisions that are in our best interest. We think about it in a different way, and so we make decisions that are often rationalizations, because and we rationalize to ourselves why the decision is a good decision rather than coming from our heart.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So what really happens then in a dysfunctional family is that there is from the parents an invalidation of the child's inner life. The inner life are the child's emotions, their feelings. And so when the inner life gets repressed and gets held in, then we lose touch with our authenticity and our ability to be real in relationships and in the world. Um, what our observations, our needs, our feelings, and our reactions are our truths. And when our parents tell us that what we are thinking, feeling, and seeing are not true, then it causes a great rift inside of us, an inner conflict. We want to be loyal to our parents, and at the same time, we want to be able to be ourselves. And if that conflicts because our parent is wanting us to be loyal to them rather than being who we really are, we walk around with this inner conflict, and that inner conflict can last forever.
Exactly. And then that is, of course, if we recognize where the problem is,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So many people, people are not even able to understand that is the problem,
Right.
right?
Right.
So they have lots of guilt and shame running them, and sinfulness,
Mm-hmm.
plus fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every moment of their lives, because that's how they know how to operate, and therefore how to communicate, how to relate. What you just described comes from a person who has the ability to distinguish between these things.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So somebody who has been in therapy, deep psychoanalysis, and all of that. Many people, unfortunately, don't get that service for themselves. Not that it is not available; it is available. But to get to a point that this is what I'm doing, and this is, it's not working for me, and I need to get out of it, right?
Right.
It takes an initial awareness,
right,
of the situation.
So codependence it comes from an invalidation of our inner life.
Right.
So therefore, we look for things outside of us to fulfill us, and that's really what addictions are, right?
Right.
The alcohol makes me feel better. The marijuana makes me feel better. The cocaine,
Social drinking.
social
We
drinking.
just have a drink to have a good time.
Exactly. It makes me
Right.
feel better.
Right.
But the question that nobody asks is, why do I need to feel better?
Right.
Right? Because feeling better means that I wasn't feeling terrific to begin with. Right? So I want to feel better. But why wasn't I feeling terrific to begin with? Well, people will say, because I was stressed. Okay. Well, yes. And what is stress? Right? What exactly is stress? Stress has to do with the pressure that we put on ourselves in order to achieve what we think we need to achieve in order to be loved and accepted in the world. That's it.
That's it, yeah.
So we pressure ourselves to feel loved and accepted, and I will only feel loved and accepted if I can make this deal. I will only feel loved and accepted if I can make $100,000 a year. I will only feel loved and accepted if I can make $100,000 a month or a week.
Mm-hmm.
I will only feel loved and accepted if I can afford this big house. So, so, and of course, people don't actually think that. They don't think I will only feel loved and accepted. They just go to, I need to do this.
Right.
I need to do this. And therefore, everything outside of them becomes more important than how they feel inside.
Right. And then some of us, that when we look at external factor as a source of comfort and happiness and success and everything that's, we need to feel internally, uh, we don't even realize that this is what we're doing. But, also the society promotes that. Who are better qualified people? People who have better cars, better house, better clothing, better vacations, so people automatically, they go towards that, they stay with their codependent part of themselves
Mm-hmm.
because that's how they are measured up in society.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
people look to be measured up.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, we just have a few minutes, but I did want to comment on how to heal yourself from codependence. So the big thing in psychotherapy is we cannot heal anything while we are in denial that it exists, right? So you can't heal yourself unless you recognize that you need healing. What makes you recognize that you need healing is your level of fulfillment in your life. How fulfilled are you in your life? And that's a subjective thing, right?
Mhm.
So, but you have to determine to yourself, just is it, if I were to rate my fulfillment on my life, would I give it a 99? Would I give it a 90? Would I give it an 85? Would I give it a 75? And so you can just say to yourself on these different areas, okay, my friendships, my love life, my work, my social life, my activities, what you can kind of go through that. If you come to the conclusion that you want to work on yourself, then the next step is to say, okay, I need to take some action, because if I keep doing what I've been doing, I'll keep getting what I've been getting. So I have to do something different. The first thing that I would do if I were in that space is I would begin to educate myself and take a look at what things in my life need to be worked on. And I would start to look in the self-help section, on Amazon, because they have, thousands, if not millions, of self-help books. The things that appeal to you will jump out at you. Read a few reviews on it, get a book, and start looking at it. One of my favorite books about codependence is this book that I keep in front of me when we're doing this program, and it's called Codependence: Healing the Human Condition by Charles Whitfield. And this gives a whole history of how to identify codependence, the history of codependence, treatment and recovery of codependence, self-help groups, group therapy, and individual therapy. And as you read it, you can make some notes to yourself as to things that jump out at you, and then you say, okay, these are things I want to work on. And then you find, either through books, and of course I'm a big proponent of psychotherapy. It's a big part of my life, always has been, my own therapy as well as helping others. And the more you do that, the more you get clear about not just what needs to be worked on, but how to work on it. And then steps that you take start to make you happier and happier, which is, after all, what we need.
Right.
And this is going to be true for all addictions. And we say codependence is the greatest of all addiction, but this is true for all addictions. And anything can be an addiction if you use it as a way to escape emotional pain. That's really the purpose of addictions. People think it's about physical pain. Well, it is about physical pain.
Yeah.
However, it usually, if the physical pain goes away and you're still using the addiction, it's no longer about physical pain. Now it's about the effects that it's having, which takes you out of your normal state. And if your normal state is one where you're carrying emotional pain, then you use your addiction in order to feel better, getting rid of that emotional pain. And that's what addictions do. They help you rise above your emotional pain. They don't make you happy, but they take you to a high state where you no longer have to experience the emotional pain for the moment. And the more you do that, the more you feel like, okay, one of my clients called it vacation disassociation. You disassociate from your emotional pain, and that's really what it is.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, we don't end with codependency here. There is so much to talk about it. It's through codependency that we lose our true self.
Yes.
It's through codependency that we are not able to look at the many qualities that we mentioned at the beginning of the program, right? Because we don't have the skills to do that, because nobody taught us to do that. Instead, we were shaped into something that our parents or caregivers believe that that's our true identity.
Right. We actually are born pretty self-sufficient in terms of our ability to be happy.
Right.
What do we need? We need food, and we need water, and we need shelter. But for most people who have that, what else do they need except for the ability to feel good about who they are in the world? And if you don't have that, then almost anything else that society offers is a substitute for that. And it distracts you from what you really need.
What we really need is love,
yes,
support, and for our parents to understand our true identity.
Right.
And try to, and aim to, grow that.
Exactly.
Help us grow that.
Exactly. But if you listen to society, you can't market that. You can't market good self-esteem.
No, we can't.
Right.
But we have to talk about this next week, because we just got the notice that our time is up.
Okay, so our time is up. We can't market good self-esteem, but we can market a new lipstick that's going to make you more attractive to the opposite sex. That's then going to get you the love that you really want. So let's talk about this next week. We thank you for joining us for the past couple of hours. We appreciate that. And we do welcome you to please join us. We invite you to please join us next week, same time, Thursday at 3 and at 4. And until then, don't forget that all you need is love. All you need is love. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.